Welcome to the Journal Editorial Report. I'm Paul Gigot. A deal to fund the government until January 30th was reached this week, ending the longest shutdown in American history. But the Democratic infighting is only beginning as Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer becomes the target of his own party's anger after failing to keep his caucus together in opposing the compromise bill. Here are Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna of California and Seth Moulton of Massachusetts this week.
It's time for him to be replaced. He is not meeting the moment. He's out of touch with where the party's base is.
There's a leadership vacuum right now in the Democratic Party. We need new leadership. We've got to stop protecting this establishment status quo.
Let's bring in our panel, Wall Street Journal columnist Kim Strassel and Alicia Finley, and editorial board member Mene Ukwe-Barua. So, Kim, why are Democrats so upset with Chuck Schumer? Because after all, he did what they wanted. He shut down the government for 43 days. Now, the fact that he couldn't control the dissenters who wanted to open it, okay, but they said shut it down. He shut it down.
Yeah, I mean, Chuck Schumer really can't win here, right? I mean, he was pilloried back in the spring because he actually voted to keep the government open. This time he led them on the longest shutdown of all time, and he never did vote to open the government, and they are pillorying him again. Look, he can't control everyone in his party, but what this shows, Paul, is that the appetite, the premium among the progressive left remains a leader who's going to fight, and maintain the whole party together in fighting. I would discount a little bit some of the carping from the House members. They didn't have to do anything hard here. No matter how they voted, they could vote no. The government was still going to open because Republicans had the vote for it in the House. So they didn't have to make any hard choices. But this is about a progressive base that is again ascendant. And they've decided that the only thing they're going to measure you on is how much you resist this White House.
So, Mene, when they went into this, the Democrats made health care, extending the Affordable Care Act subsidies that are enhanced during the pandemic era, their target. Did they succeed? They didn't get that to happen to reopen the government, but did they succeed in making this now a big issue going into 2026?
I think it's possible that they did. I don't think we've seen the last of this issue. In the beginning, I think they really thought they might be able to extract a concession from Republicans just to reopen the government, because there are a few moderate Republicans in both the Senate and the House who already wanted to extend these Obamacare subsidies. Now, I think they saw for a few weeks they were able to make hay out of the issue with the American public, say Republicans are increasing the price of your health care. Of course, that distracts from the fundamentals of the issue because Obamacare has the price increases essentially built in. But I think they do think that there are a lot of people who are concerned about the direction of the cost of health care is going, and they're going to be able to potentially get some kind of deal. And even President Trump has hinted at that.
Yeah, what do you think about the Republican response on health care, Alicia? Is it, I guess, what is it, first of all? And, can they win this debate?
Well, I think they're still trying to figure that out. They have, to their credit, they mounted a coordinated defense, and they did not give in or surrender to Democratic demands to extend these subsidies. But there's schisms in the caucus about exactly how much free market do we want to allow. For instance, I think there are some who want to provide more choice and deregulate, and by which I mean maybe roll back the medical loss ratio and the Obamacare, and maybe actually even reduce more Medicaid. Beyond what they did in the tax bill.
That Medicare loss ratio is limits.
It's essentially
profits.
A cap.
Yeah,
that has encouraged more consolidation in the healthcare industry and increased prices. Now, there are a lot of technical fixes that you can make in the regulations that would actually improve competition and improve choice. The rub is trying to get or rally the political courage to actually do something, because they worry about being attacked by the left and by the left especially about doing this for big pharma or big insurers and increasing costs for American consumers.
Well, they're going to get attacked either way, so they might as well have a response. Kim, how big a threat are these new Jeffery Epstein emails that were released this week? How big a threat to President Trump's agenda and his standing with the American public?
Yeah, well, beyond threat to everyone's mental health, I'm not sure much, Paul. Look, we've been through all of the Jeffrey Epstein things many, many times, and what we have coming out now, Democrats obviously released these 3 emails attempting to tie things to Trump. The problem is there's no there. He has long maintained that he didn't do, that he knew Jeffrey Epstein, that they palled around, that he's never done anything inappropriate. These emails don't suggest anything otherwise. There remains no evidence. What is going to happen, though, Paul, is as these tens of thousands of documents continue to come out through the House Oversight Committee, and that's what we saw released this week, a whole lot of people's reputations are going to get thrown out there because there's so much information in there. This may well pass the House, but it isn't likely to pass the Senate, and it's not going to get signed by Donald Trump. So in terms of like a full file, that may not happen. But just the effort by the House GOP to kind of handle this by looking at it by its own, we're still going to have a lot of information that comes out that mostly, I think, threatens reputations unfairly and threatens to put a lot of information out about victims.
Dumping raw FBI files in the public domain can do a lot of guilt by association. All right, still ahead, President Trump's pitch to make America affordable again, from tariff rebate checks to 50-year mortgages. We'll take a closer look at his latest proposals to address voter concerns about the cost of living.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.